great. Okay. So before we will dive into the topic, I would like to raise a short question to you. So I will ask every one of you a question, and please think of the answer, type it into the chat, and once we give you a go, please hit enter, and so that all the answers come in at the same time. So as Christmas is coming, what are your personal tips for a circular Christmas gift? Or maybe you have various ideas. So we will give you 30 seconds to think about it. Please type something into the chat. And once I say go, please just hit enter. Yeah. And we will check some of the ideas. Okay, please wait with sending the answers so that we can read it all at the same time. Okay, maybe we wait another 10 seconds. Okay, please send your answers now. Okay, so there are many answers coming in. I will go through some of these and maybe we can use some of these ideas. So I'm reading a refurbed iPhone for my son. You can use some reusable packaging such as paper or use tissues or reusable wrapping paper, homemade gifts, a spa for two, skills or cooking class for a friend or cooking for a friend, some self-made gifts, love, of course, handmade presents. Okay, somebody says reuse run from last year. At last draw, give some moments, so nothing material. Homemade cookies, for repair service activities. Okay, thank you for your ideas. Okay, let's go on with our slides. Okay. I would like to introduce our guests to you today. As you know, today the question is about how we can scale product as a service business models successfully and bring them into the market. To discuss this question, we have teamed up with our strategic partner from CiCEL, the company Grover. Many of you will know them for renting consumer electronics such as laptops, cameras, smartphones, and many other things. So very warm welcome to Thomas, Marcel, and Marianne. Thomas is the CFO of the company Grover. He has worked in different corporate finance positions before taking over the role at Grover in 2017. Marcel is head of Recommerce at Grover. He really knows the consumer electronics industry by heart. He's been working in different roles in a number of consumer electronic firms. He started at Grover in the year 2020. Last but not least, we have Marianne. You already know her from our previous sessions, as Marianne is, as you know, Marianne from Circularity, but she's also head of sustainability at Grover. So welcome to the three of you. I'm very glad to have you here on stage and looking forward to your input. Before we start, let's take a quick look at the agenda, what's going to happen in the next 1.5 hours. Thomas will give us an introduction to Grover and their business model. Marianne is going to take us along Grover's sustainability journey, and Marcel will explain us how all this works in real life. After the individual inputs, we will dive deeper into a few topics in a little panel discussion. That will be followed by breakouts, where you all get the chance to get more into depth with the three speakers' topics. Okay. Before we start, let's take a quick look at circularity in case that there's somebody on board who doesn't know us already. So circularity is a professional network and an innovative do tank for the German circular economy. We connect change makers from business and society and develop solutions together. Circularity has made plenty of events. It's very important to us, and it really matters to us to bring people together, to bring companies to one table, to discuss also complicated topics and bring new ideas to life, build networks. And yeah, we have held over 800, we have had over 1,000 participants in our events. We have more than 800 professional network members. We have held more than 9 projects and workshops with partners. We have held 3 big flagship annual conferences, and I know that many of you have taken part in all of this. And yeah, some of the companies we've worked at are displayed here, but I think we can move to the next slide. CiCEL is our latest strategic program, and it's a really big program. We're really looking forward to bringing solutions together with you live. We have some strategic partners, which are the companies Grover, BSH Hausgerätegruppe, and Rebuy. We are also having further partners like the company Chivo, and we are supported by the Deutsche Bundesstiftung Umwelt. Our overall goal in this program, in the CiCEL program, is we are here currently in the first phase of our program, which is an event series. We will have interactive events, and we have some hybrid sessions and online sessions. The goal is to create knowledge and network, bring people together and get connected. Phase 2 will start in January, which is our stakeholder action track. We will analyze opportunities for collaboration and have different, we call them action tracks, which are dedicated topics that we want to work on and bring solutions together with our partners. The third phase is the implementation of these collaborations, of the communication of the goals that we have achieved together. Okay. Today, we are already in our 6th event, and I will keep it short. There will be one more event for the fridge recycling. You will also get an announcement later for that. There are only a couple of spots left, so if you're quick, you can get some of the last seats. And I checked it, it's like, you need to be quick. Okay, so there are not too many spots left. Okay. The CiCEL team is much bigger than the couple of people that were announced as hosts today. So the team combines experience in business and science and a passion for circular economy. Okay. Our next event is what I just said. So if you want to take part in the fridge recycling, please register. You can find us on Eventbrite or also on LinkedIn, and secure some of the last spots.
Next slide.
Okay.
So
I think Paula, you will go on, right?
Yes, exactly. So before we finally hand over to our amazing guests today, there's one last announcement from our side. As you just heard from Alina, we're getting into the next phase of CiCEL, of our program. And what's going to follow in January is the heart of the very heart of this program. On January 10th and 11th, we will hold a 2-day workshop in Berlin with around 40 representatives of the entire consumer electronics value chain. And we're going to do 2 things. We're going to firstly identify together the most pressing challenges and that are keeping the industry from being more circular than it is today. And based on these findings, we're going to facilitate the development of new circular solutions together. And from Circularity, from CiCEL team, we're going to facilitate these ideas even after the end of the workshop, and really want to bring them to life. So if that sounds interesting to you, please reach out. We've already got an amazing setup of pioneers and really inspiring companies, and also a few nonprofits and very interesting organizations that are going to join. So yeah, please reach out if you also want to join. this is really the heart of our program, and we are very, very excited. But yeah, without further ado, I finally would like to hand over to our guests, our speakers today. Please, to all the to everybody who is coming today, if you've got a question, please put them in the chat. We're going to address them after all of them have spoken. My colleague Anna is going to screen them and collect them. So yeah, we're going to have a little panel discussion where you can ask your question. So yeah, Thomas, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, thanks very much, Paula, and also Alina, for the kind introduction and the overview. Also, first of all, I would like to thank you and congratulate you for the important work you're doing on, well, not only sharing information, knowledge about the circular economy, but also advancing the topic. And in this particular track in the CiCEL with circular electronics, that's obviously a natural fit for us, and even more so because there's also an overlap with Marianne being part of both organizations. So we're really happy to be a partner also for circularity on that topic. So you've already introduced me, so thank you for that. As a CFO at Grover, I'm also responsible for sustainability, so that's a topic that's very close to my heart already since I joined in 2017, and since last year we finally also had the resources and the organizational capacity to put a team in place, and we're really great colleagues there with Marianne and Lisa, who are here both today, who did a lot of work, which they will present a little bit later. But I want to start off first with a question. Maybe you can answer with the reaction button here in Zoom. So first of all, who of you knows Grover already and what we do? I don't know if I can see it here with the view. And second question, see, it's quite a lot. And who of you has used us already as a customer, both either individually or as with their company? That I would also be interested to see. Okay, that unfortunately I can't see. Okay, was an attempt to make it a bit interactive, but then let's move on to the next slide. So what is Grover about? I think it's encapsulated quite nicely in this bold statement, buying is over rent tech with Grover, and that kind of sums up our ambition of replacing linear consumption in consumer electronics with a circular model of flexible subscriptions that are both better, more affordable, flexible for the customer, but also better for the environment, because we encourage less consumption, less production, and use the existing devices more. Marianne will talk about this in a lot more detail, how we think about it. But first of all, for those of you who don't know what we do, I want to briefly explain how it works. So as a prospective customer, you come to our website or to one of our partner stores, you select a device that you like and need, select a rental period, place an order. We run a credit check in the background, and if approved, we ship the order to you. You use the device for as long as you need it. You're covered by a damage insurance as well, in case you drop the device or something like that. And once you don't need the device anymore, you send it back to us. We refurbish, repair the device, whatever is necessary, and then it goes back in stock and gets sent out to the next customer. And we do that cycle up to 20 times actually per device, but on average 3 to 4 times. And that's very powerful in terms of increasing the lifetime and the utilization of devices. So let's go to the next slide. We have more than 3,500 products across 11 categories, everything from a drone to a smartphone to a laptop. E-mobility is a growing category. So basically everything that's electronic you can rent from us, and currently in 5 markets across the world. So Germany is our home market, where we started out in 2015, and we're also present in Austria, Netherlands, and Spain and Europe, and since last year also in the US. Our head office is in Berlin, around the corner in Potsdamer Straße, and we also have hubs in Lisbon and Miami. And then the smaller dots you see on the map are our operation centers, about which Marcel will talk a bit later on. We are around 500 employees, and yeah, the 5 markets I mentioned already, so you can go to the next slide. And to give you an idea of when we started in 2015, product as a service was very new, and a lot of people said this will never work. Who wants to rent stuff? Everybody wants to buy it. They want to own it. It's important. Also, people will treat the devices not well. You will only get back broken things, and it will not be financially viable. And you will need a lot of capital for it, which is hard to get. So this whole endeavor is doomed to fail. So it was definitely not easy, right? It took a while to figure out a lot of things, the operations part, credit underwriting, to get the brands on board to even sell their products to us, because they were quite a few of them were worried that we would cannibalize their sales in the beginning. And so it took a while, but demand was always there. So whenever we had the kind of the funding to buy the devices, they flew off our shelf. So that was great, and kind of pointed us in the direction that we're up to something that people are interested in. And what we found out why people like to use us, both as private consumers and as business customers, is the flexibility of having access to a device for as long as you need it. The affordability, so instead of paying 1,500 euros for an iPhone upfront, you can pay it in 50 euros per month and only pay for the time where you actually use the device. And then sustainability is becoming more and more top of mind for customers over recent years, as really a factor in their purchase decision. So and for business, obviously, there's also this consideration of OpEx versus CapEx, which is becoming more and more important, and kind of can give some relief to the financial statements, where you then don't have big investment in devices, but have a monthly charge there. So where are we in terms of scale right now? We have more than 600,000 devices rented out to customers at the moment, more than 300,000 customers. That also gives you a good impression of that customers actually typically start with one device, but then when they buy into the concept and feel how easy and convenient and practical it is, they successively rent more devices from us as they need other. Maybe they start with a phone, but then next time they need a new laptop, they also rent it from us, or they want to try a VR headset because that's cool, but they don't want to buy it yet because they don't know if they need it. So you see the customers rent more devices from us, and we've been able to continuously increase the number of subscriptions customers and also our revenues. And we've now reached over 200 million euros in run rate revenues, growing at a decent rate also before, during, and after COVID, which of course for many e-commerce companies was a big topic. And yeah, so we're on a solid growth trajectory. Of course, also in the same subject to the same market developments on the capital market side as a lot of the startups economy at the moment. But overall, we've been quite successful with fundraising against all the initial concerns that many people had. So we need, or it's fair to say that we need quite a lot of capital, not so much on the equity side, where we've always been quite frugal, but we need to buy, of course, the devices. So 600,000 iPhones, if you know what an iPhone costs, that's a lot of money. And we finance this via asset-backed debt facilities. And that has enabled us to grow quite equity efficient. But what is interesting on the equity side is that a lot of our investors are actually impact investors. There's our Series A lead investor was a fund called Circularity Capital back in 2017. So that happened before circular economy became a buzzword. It was quite, I mean, it was still a bit like uncool, if you will, back then. And they were a bit like running ahead of the trend in a way. People said, like, why do you invest in that? There are not that many interesting investment opportunities in the circular economy. But since then, it really has taken off, of course, with many product as service and other circular economy models. being established and also being able to scale. So we're really happy about that, and would also say that especially in the product as service space, both for equity and debt, we've probably also blazed a little bit of a trail for those who do other product as service models now in different things, in e-mobility, or for different sorts of devices, or focus on business customers and so on. So really, we're really happy to see that being taking off, and how it's going. Although we're still at the very beginning, if we look at our customer research, what percentage of the population is willing to rent. It's growing, but it requires a lot of education, and it varies interestingly by country quite a lot, where Germans, or the German market is somehow still much more set on owning the physical device than what we see in other markets that are a bit more advanced. Say in Netherlands, sustainability is a lot more top of mind already, and people have departed from the necessity of owning something that they use. So yeah, overall a very exciting time to be in this industry, and help progressing that. And that's already it from my side, and I'm happy to pass over to Marianne, who will talk a little bit more about how we think about sustainability. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Happy to continue unless there's any pressing questions, or we'll have all the questions or time to ask all the questions and discuss later on. Yeah, very happy to be sharing a little bit about Grover's sustainability journey. As Thomas just mentioned, I mean, there's been a huge focus put on sustainability. I mean, it has always been like inherent in the concept of the business model, but this year we have really doubled down on sustainability. I mean, that's me, and also my colleague Lisa is here in the call today, and happy also to join the discussion later. So, and we kicked off. And I think actually also Sophie is online. So the whole everybody on sustainability on Grover is here today, which I'm very happy about. So, and we really kicked off this sustainability journey with a question of like, what do we want to be? Like, what's the vision of sustainability for Grover? And we said, so we want to be a leading force for circular electronics and become a sustainable alternative to access tech for everyone. And that combines really like the dual purpose of having a social aspect, of like promoting access, like, but also like doing this in a more sustainable way. And as you can imagine, like sustainability is a huge topic. It's all this E, S, and G, the environmental, social, and the governance part. It's a broad topic and it's complex, but we've really doubled down, and we've come a long way during this year. I mean, I'm happy to share some more details on other parts of the sustainability journey in the breakout later. I mean, we've developed an action plan for Grover. We did our carbon accounting, scope 1, 2, 3. We developed an impact model. We developed a code of conduct, and we developed the first ESG report for Grover, which is also to be finalized soon. We are doing customer surveys on understanding the perception of our customers on sustainability. And we really seek to collaborate beyond Grover to advance the industry transition. And this is also one of the reasons we're all here today. I mean, it's always funny for me in the dual role, but I'm really, really happy to see that Grover is actively pushing to collaborate beyond the organization to push this topic. But I'm not going to go into all these details, but mostly focusing on this question, which has been a major focus for us, is to understand what is the actual impact of rental, right? I mean, the promise and the premise of the whole model, both, is that we can actually provide the same value that electronic devices deliver to our customers with actual fewer electronic, like physical devices, right? That's the whole concept of recommerce, or especially product as a service models, right? And what we've done, and we've spent quite a lot of time internally, is just to build a quantitative model based on our historic data from 2015, so 7 years of historic data, to understand like how often did we actually recirculate the devices, like what's the average rental span, etc., to understand what the dynamics, to understand like what has happened in the 7 years and what can we deduct from that. And we've So we looked at the 7 years of historic data on all these assets that we've bought, more than 500,000 assets. And then also we talked to the teams like Marcel and all his teams in terms of like, what do we do in terms of repair, refurbishment, etc. And we brought all this together to build a model and to understand what our circular activities are like. We talked to a lot of experts in the field, to our impact investors, of course, who are also very keen in supporting us in this journey, to various researchers and practitioners. And I'm happy to share like a few of the first insights that we are developing, because we really see this as an open process. We want to also in this term, I will get to this a little bit later. We want to share and like advance the discussion in the industry of how we can actually measure the impact of rental. So what we see is, and that's like based on the historic numbers, we have so far realized 1 million rentals. That is 1 million devices put into the hand of customers, right? And we see also from the historic data that on average, we rent out the devices from 2 to 6 times. That depends, of course, on the product category, right? You tend to hold on to smartphones for longer, and the GoPro that maybe we rent out just for the trip to the Himalaya. I mean, that's actually also the idea of rental, right? That you just access the devices for as long as you actually need it. And when you don't need it, done using it, you give it back and we rent it out again. And our portfolio has been growing a lot, especially in the last years. So we started with a few devices naturally, but we are quite happy that we have 4 cameras from the early years that are still up and running, and they have been rented out more than 20 times each. Okay, so also like it's a little bit of an insight into the way we work as well. So first of all, I mean, the logic or one of the good things about product as a service is that you align incentives between the company providing the service and sustainability, ideally, in the sense that because we don't sell it, but we rent it, it's our inherent interest that the products last for as long as possible, right? And hence, like, especially for the handset, like for the smartphones, etc., we seek to provide protective gear, like the screensavers for, how do you say this correct, the what's the word? The thing you put on the screen so it doesn't get scratched, right? Because it's good for you as a user, and it's good for us because you don't do scratches on the screen. Right? And also we have something like this Grover Care. So if you have a device rented from us and it breaks or something happens with it, we will take care of the repair and we'll cover 90% of the cost. So that is included in the fee. And that also makes it more likely that the device will get repaired, because for us it's a very streamlined process. We have our repair partners, whereas for you, if you have an own device, you might have to go to Google or Yellow Pages and look for some probably shady repair service provider, and that is very cumbersome. So probably you'd rather not repair. So we would like to take this burden off from our customers and provide that service. Yeah, and when the devices, when you are done using it and it gets back to us, then we refurbish it. That means we clean the device and we wipe off all the data, also in a certified process, so that all the sensitive data is deleted. And then we check for it on the repairs. I'm not going into detail because Marcel will. But yeah, so this is like a very a process for refurbishment and repair that we look for in our devices to keep them in the loop. And now comes the tricky part in estimating what the potential impact of the model is. And in our current assumptions, and we are currently also doing a research project with Fraunhofer Institute to further advance this model, we estimate that based on the historic data, we have already avoided the purchase of around 130,000 new devices. And that's our KPI to measure our impact. If you continuously rent out one device, then we can hopefully replace the purchase of new devices. And then you can translate this KPI into saved tons of e-waste, and then also save tons of CO2. That is the CO2 associated with the production of new devices. And that is the challenging thing of product as a service, is that you buy the device at a certain point in time, but the impact accrues over time. So the 134,000 devices are based on the portfolio, on the devices that we added to our portfolio between 2015 and 2020. In 2021, we added 300,000 new devices. I mean, they've just just started being rented out. So probably in the second cycle or still in the first one. So there's still like some impact to be accrued over time in the following years. But we hope that we can, with these devices that we've added based on the historic performance of our portfolio, avoid the purchase of 450,000 devices. Yeah, and that's also my last slide, and it's also like an invitation for the discussion later. The measuring of impact of circularity is a challenging task, right? And we have put a lot of emphasis on this because we don't want to like just believe and say, yes, this is like inherently sustainable, because it can be, but it has to be done in the right way. And we need to know like what the indicators are that we use and how we shape this model, right? And to understand what it is, we need to assess it. And we also need to discuss as a community. And this is also like one of the reasons, well, we have a discussion today. Currently, there is no standards to measure the impact of circular business models, right? This is like these avoided emissions. There's a lot of discussion on it, also for the carbon accounting, from the carbon accounting part, and also from the impact measurement part. So it's inherently difficult to measure the impact of recommerce and rental models. And it's a little bit like everybody does as they please, right? And it's also complicated because there's different approaches, right? So either you can say, okay, I go via the number of rentals, right? So how many times do we have actually recirculated our devices, right? And that's the approach that we have currently, that we have done so far. But you can also argue to build a model based on the estimated prolongation of life. Let's say because the device is in Grover and we have rented out so many times, it lasts a few months longer than it would be if it was just sold in the market, right? And that is something also that we are currently developing also with Fraunhofer. But the problem with all these is that there's little reliable data, right? So the problem is that for rental, in any case, whatever approach you use, you have to have an hypothetical guess of what the hypothetical alternative action of the customer would have been, right? And then we do this. We have asked our customers, so what would you have done if you hadn't rented out a device with Grover? But you all know, and you have probably all filled these kind of questionnaires out. There's an inherent bias, and we never know whether it's actually the case, right? So that's a little bit complicated. And it's also complicated because if we want to assume that the devices hold longer at Grover, we would have to understand how long the devices hold on in the market. And there's also very different assumptions that you can take, right? And it's also constantly changing because recommerce is getting the new normal probably, right? So this is, I mean, maybe there is no one single truth, but what we also want to do is we want to like share our insights on what we've done, and also engage in a discussion with the community, because I think this is very important that we collectively as an industry advance this topic and to align on the assumptions and to further develop transparency and how we can measure this so that we can get better as a whole industry and we really understand how to actually maximize the impact of circular business models. And with that, I think I'm handing over to Marcel.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. Good afternoon, everybody. And thanks, Thomas and Marianne, for your presentation. Hope I could follow you with my next slides. I would like to start, could you skip please to the next page? I would like to start with our offering. So Grover's aim is to give customer access to tech without ownership in the most flexible way. So we're acting really, really customer-centric. On the one hand, how do we achieve this? We have a very wide range of product portfolio. You might have seen this on other slides already. So we have 11 categories with up to 50 subcategories, 3,500 products from different areas of the consumer electronics, like mobile, e-mobility, gaming, smart home, whatever, and a lot of seasonal products. And on the other hand, we make it very, very easy accessible for the customer. This is, I would say, the point to why pick Grover. And on top of this, our offer is pretty flexible. So the customer could choose how long he wants to rent with Grover, and at any time he can extend, which is a big purpose, I would say. And on top of this, the offering is covered with a security package. I name it sometimes like this. So 90% of the repair costs are covered when there is an incident of damage. So this is a straightforward offer and it's easy to access. We have a lot of channels where the customer can place an order with us, like the website, the mobile app, and also some point of sales. So it's easy to submit with Grover, which leads me to my next slide. But what happened when the customer picks Grover? So the customer placed an order. It went through our risk approval funnel, which is one of our core technologies to approve if the customer is solvent and can use our offer. I can tell you the majority of our customers went through this funnel. And what happened afterwards? We are creating a subscription and allocate a specific serial number to that subscription. This in combination is then the order push for logistics. And what happens then in the logistics is clear. It's the forward logistic. We pick, pack the asset and ship it to the customer. Could you go please to the next slide? So not only the Grover logistic is driven by the main pillars like volume, quality, and speed or pace. It's maybe a little bit different in Grover than compared to normal logistic or e-commerce companies, because volume, on the one hand, we are scaling heavily. This is maybe another company is the same, but on the point of volume for returns, we are getting more than 80% of our product back, which is already a challenge compared to other businesses like I know it from the past, Recommerce, for example, they're dealing with 10-15% return rates, or even fashion, they have up to 50% return rates. We have up to above 80% return rates, which is already challenging, I would say. And quality, what means quality? We are fulfilling the demand of the customer or underlying our offer with not only new products, we are combining new and used in the same quality. So quality drives a big core KPI at Grover. And the last one is speed or pace. So the circulation model means we are circulating the assets. So we are fulfilling our demand. We need to buy products for fulfilling our demand, and we need to produce assets in the same time to fulfill our demand. So it's a combination of both. So pace is very critical to always keep our offering diverse. And please, could you go to the next slide? What have we done on the Grover side? So Grover's offering needs a solid backbone of logistic, and we have decided on Grover to split between the forward and the backward logistic. They have different purposes, they're fulfilling different needs, and I would like to start with the forward logistic. So the forward logistic is driven as the most of the logistics driven by lead time, availability, and quality. And we are having two main pillars, how we are serving these demand or these KPIs. One is the warehouse management. We call it dock to dock. So everything which happens inside of the warehouse, and the transportation delivery management. That means everything which is outside of the warehouse. And the main core points which we are covering here with the forward logistic is the availability of stock. So to keep always the products available to fulfill the demand for new and used goods. The second thing is to balance the stock. We have different markets. We had at the peak this year up to 5 warehouses. So we are balancing stock. So with that, we have short delivery times and lead times to the customer. Also, it's impacting the CO2 footprint when we are doing this. But we are aiming and we will progress on this one furthermore in the future. And last bit is capabilities. That means we need to have enough space. We need to have enough capabilities on outbound. So with the carrier network to fulfill the demand, and it's in all regards like packaging and needed logistic equipment to fulfill the demand on point to keep all the KPIs in a good shape. But what happened after the order is shipped? Could you go to the next slide, please? Once the order is fulfilled and the customer is getting the asset, the customer experience starts with Grover. That means, in average, customer is enjoying, as you see here on the slide, 11 months the offering of Grover. It's just an average. It's totally different when we zoom more into detail. Average rental time on the category VR, for example, is maybe 1 or 3 months in average, because customers want to try it out and maybe it's not for them, so they ship it back. Or the seasonality also drives the average rental time with Grover. Summer, winter, for example, e-mobility is very common in summer, but not that in winter. Or even the channels to whom we are renting to are impacting the average rental time. Like B2B, they're taking the asset longer because it's equipment for their employees. B2C is, kind of unpredictable or more flexible. And the offering is covered, as mentioned, with the Grover Care. But when the customer is experiencing our offer, in the best case, we don't hear 11 months anything from him. But in worst case, we hear something from them. So we are covering this demand of the customer with a part of the operation with the customer success department, which is pretty big at Grover. We have different KPIs where we're measuring the success of this department, like CiCEL, which is common in the e-commerce, and Heads, where customers are responding, how can we improve our offering in the future? And another thing which is maybe different to other e-commerce models, the customer can trigger a return at any time when the rental period is over and he has extended longer. So it might be an unexpected return for us, but customers initiating the return, which leads me to my next slide. Which reasons do we foresee, or the normal reasons in e-commerce for returns are they don't like it, it's a revocation, it's a damage in the warranty time, which needs to be clarified with the customer. And on Grover, it's similar. Rental period is over. He might have a damage that are the core or the main reasons for returns. And we also have the exceptions like the normal market in the e-commerce, like revocation or failed delivery. This is the amount which we need to handle. Why I'm presenting here this graph. What's specific for the Grover business model is, given the average rental time of 11 months, we are always more or less 1 year behind the forward growth of Grover. So we have time to react on how Grover has performed until the asset is returning back. And this graph shows a little bit the correlation between forward growth and backward growth. So we are now facing the peak of the year 2021 in the reverse. The good thing is we can predict for the most of our subscriptions already that a return will happen at a certain time. But there is a part of uncertainty regarding short-term rentals and growth of Grover, which is always challenging the logistic in regards of the main pillars you have seen: speed, capacity, and well, I forgot about it. But yeah, okay, let's get a little bit deeper on the process for the reverse logistic. So could you go to next slide? Thanks. So main return reason I've already mentioned. We have end of rental period and damaged return, but also revocation and failed delivery. The thing is, every return will end up in our facility, which is more than 80% of everything which we forwarded at the first rental time. And at the moment, we are running on 2 different vendors in the reverse. We make the biggest transit at Grover to a new partner, which will be announced soon. It's not official yet, so I cannot share it here, but it's the transition we are doing right now to one main vendor, which we are scaling towards in the future. But let's dive into the flow. The goods in is the most critical part for Grover. Why? Because we have linked the subscription to a unique serial number. That means how to identify that the right asset has reached us back via a return. So we need to identify it, compare it with what have we rented out? Is it that what we have rented to the customer, to assure this? And this is also the needed thing to cancel a subscription and also to avoid fraud if we are in the e-commerce. So it's also a common thing that you get a stone instead of a mobile phone back to assure these. The second most critical part is to identify the optical and technical condition of the asset. So at this point, we need to assure, has the customer behaved well on the asset or in the planned behavior, or is it has he treated the asset a little bit harder than it is covered with our normal rental or lease. So this is what we are assuring with technology to make sure, especially with the right range of products, that we can standardize, input the optical and technical condition to make assumptions out of it. And another thing is we need to cancel the subscription still with the customer, and the knowing of how the asset looks like brings us the possibility to charge the 10% of the repair cost in case we need to invest on the asset or to let the customer out of the subscription. At the grading itself, because it's one of the first processes where a workforce is touching the asset, a data erasure happened for all the different consumer electronics, and more assets becoming critical in sense of data. We are assuring before they are entering the process that they are clean from data, if possible. I need to say it because we're also talking about damaged assets. So we are using technologies to erase data, which are certified, like a Blanco for the mobile segment, and also an ITAT processes for PC notebooks and categories like computers with a hard drive. After the proper grading and identification has happened, we are canceling the subscription, and then the customer is out. So it's a little bit more or less time uncritical because customers are might complaining. So this thing is done, but still it's a high pressure on timing. One of several of the core technologies on Grover is the channeling. That means with the standardized data input of the asset lookalike, we can decide what will it cost to repair, to refurbish, and is there a demand on Grover still for this category or this specific SKU that it is valid to invest into the repair. We are aiming to make as most as possible of the assets available for back to stock. The quote is pretty high, it's above 80%, just to share some insight here. But it's the nature of consumer electronics. At a certain point, it's undemanded or it's beyond economical repair. So you need to do something else with it. And that's why you see here other chains like recycling and recommerce. These are used instruments to close the cycle or to extend it even more. Can we go to the next slide, please? Sorry for that picture. I need to say it up front. So we are in a transition. We have made some pictures to give a little impression. Sooner or later, you will see some more insights also on LinkedIn and co. But what you see here on the left side, this is a data erasure which is performed on a mobile phone. In the middle, every device needs to be charged before we can perform a test, technical and optical wise. And on the very right side, you see a part of a re-imaging of a notebook or laptop. That means when we do data erasure, all data are gone, including the operating system. And we need to ensure before we render it out that the right system is on the asset and all drivers for the components inside of the assets are running proper, and the experience for the customer is the best you can have. Let's jump to the next slide. I guess a lot of you are interested how we are dealing in the repair, because this enables circularity. So when you remember the entry slide, you have seen that outbound, so the volume which we are shipping at the first time to the customer, and the return volume is correlating with a little delay. It's the same with the repair. So we are piling up at the moment because Grover has pretty strong scaled in the last years. So that's why the trend on repair, you see, we are performing in what is it here, Q4 and over 8,000 repairs. And how do we do this? So with the complexity of the portfolio into different categories, we have a big and strong network of repair partners with whom we are performing the out of warranty repairs. I need to split between these two. There is an in-warranty repair and out of warranty repair. Out of warranty repair is the one which counts the most for us because it's covering the wear and tear which are made by the customer on the assets. This is not covered by warranty of a manufacturer. When we are talking in warranty repair handling, it's over 100 potential partners with whom we are acting, because every manufacturer has maybe their own way how to repair a manufacturing failure or to exchange an asset. The coverage for our portfolio is at 85%. Why is it not 100%? It's maybe a question which comes later on, but I can tell you the reason is because there are manufacturers on the market which don't want that the assets are repaired, or the assets are built for not being able to repair. But Grover's aim, especially here on the reverse, is to maximize the potential repairs even further above 90% with own technologies. So we are harvesting parts. If we make out of one asset, or we pull the assets into parts to resell the parts for other repair partners or needs on the market. And these technologies we are discovering step by step, and this leads me to my last slide, which challenges we see. So repair capabilities is one of the biggest challenge. It starts at Grover already at the purchasing of an asset. With a contract of a vendor, of a supplier, of a distributor, we are already starting these discussions, but it needs further improvement. And what else is a challenge? Data. Everybody hears data is the new oil and so on, but it is true. As more data points you use for your assumptions and for your processes, as more you can improve and standardize the ways how you are doing things. So our aim and future plans is even make more use of the data which we already have, to change the view, to change maybe the way, and always asking yourself what you do on a day-to-day makes it sense maybe in a month or in a year still. So data is key. And the last one is the growth of Grover has brought us to the setup we have right now, but we will improve it furthermore with a decentralized setup all over Europe. Hope that finds you well. That was my last slide. And yeah, thanks for listening. And let's see which questions you have.
Many thanks, Marcel, and also Thomas and Marianne for your super interesting insights. I think everybody is very keen to dive deeper into all the different insights that you shared and topics that you brought up. We will have the opportunity to do that. We will open breakout rooms a little bit later on, where all of you can ask their questions to all of them individually. But before we do that, I would like to have a little discussion while the three of you are here together. So a few things that hopefully all of you can contribute a little bit to while answering them. I will start, Thomas, with something that you brought up. You mentioned that a key challenge for Grover is how to convince people to actually rent instead of buy the electronic devices. That's particularly a problem in Germany. So maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit further and explain us or share some experiences maybe that you were able to collect how this works best. So what's the best argument perhaps, or a channel from your experience, how to motivate people to rent instead of own?
Well, I think there are some people who are, especially younger generation, where people are more open, and then there's some older, like above 40, where I count myself in, or even above 50, that are less open to that, and say, oh, I will end up paying more in the end than if I had bought it immediately, or things like that. But there are more and more people who are open to it, also because of the sustainability aspects that make this interesting for more people. And what we see is that really getting people to try it out first is the one thing, is usually the hurdle. Once people try it out once, the loyalty is very high, and as I mentioned earlier, people tend to rent more and then kind of successively move their fleet of electronic devices and that of their families and so on to a subscription model. So, I mean, I think we're doing a decent job in convincing more and more people, but but it takes time, and it's also surprisingly trust. Trust is very important in that, even though one would think we give someone something that's maybe worth 2,000 or 3,000 euros, and with nothing than like paying the first rent up front. Still, people have a lot of kind of thoughts around, is this a reliable company? What happens if the device breaks? Like for some reason, there's a lot of psychology. People seem to be more worried about breaking a device that is rented than breaking a device that they own. Right, and they're concerned about that. Then there will be some penalty. Everybody thinks maybe of rental cars, where you have the thing that the company afterwards, the rental car company somehow tries to maybe take advantage of you with finding some scratches that were there before, or overcharging you on repairs and so on. So it's important that we are quite, we say, kulant in German, or like generous in that kind. And when things have tear and wear or some damages, that we only charge with damages, only charge 10% of the cost, and often if there's regular wear and tear, it's anyways free of charge for the customers. But these kind of things, that there's a customer support reachable, that the device comes and so on, this is what's important to prove the reliability of the partner. And then it takes a bit of word of mouth. It takes some time only for that to travel, like for people to learn. That's you try it and you say, okay, it worked for me, and then somebody else said, oh, actually that's good, I might give it a try as well. Yeah, but I mean, we haven't found the answer yet to convert all of Germany to the subscription model immediately.
And which arguments from your experience work best? Is it rather financial arguments that people perhaps save money for the, as you said, Marianne, for the Himalaya trekking trip, that you only need to rent a device for a certain amount of time? So is it rather these arguments, or is it maybe also sustainability arguments that people convert best, or to become users instead of owners?
I guess it's always hard to, I mean, what we see in terms of price elasticity or sensitivity is very high. Like if we now for Black Friday, we have special deals and the volumes explode, right? There are people who, they know there's something coming for Black Friday, so they wait also until then. But then we also see it in the regular business. If we lower prices by 10%, then suddenly the volumes go through the roof. So there's a large proportion of the customer base or potential customers that are very price sensitive, because they also have been trained to that, conditioned by, say, MediaMarkt, Saturn, and so on. The German electronics retailers are quite promotion driven over a long period of time. It's always this kind of billig type of selling argument. So it's people, or many people are conditioned to that, and not that many people are yet willing to pay something extra for being, for example, more sustainable. But there are some, right? And we expect that it will somehow also filter back from, say, food, where people happily pay more for bio food or so on, right? But this is not yet the case in electronics.
Before, I also want to give all of everybody the opportunity to ask a question. One last question from my side. We heard insights from your three very different functions and areas. I would be very interested to hear from each of you very briefly, in a few sentences only. How do you see, how do you look at your function in 5 years, and which role does sustainability, or particularly circularity, play in there? So how does success look for your function in the future? Marcel, you're smiling. It seems like you have an idea. Maybe you want to start.
Yeah, I would guess ladies first, but yeah, I can also start. So how do I see the function? So it's one of the core instruments of Grover is the reverse part, because the circulation and to make the assets available. So I see great future. If I be honest, to keep it short, there's a great future. There are a lot of challenges and areas which we need to dive deep in, or we more major out in the future. So there's a lot of work which we could discover in the future. And yeah, I see it still as a great opportunity to grow with a business model which is still new in the market, and yeah, just success. And yeah, this is how I see it. I would say a great future.
So that's a lot of optimism. That's great. Marianne, how's Grover's sustainability and circularity strategy?
I take it from two different perspectives, like one internally, one externally. Like internally, I mean, although let's say we're set up as a circular pure player, it's still like to really deliver on the mission requires sustainability to be ingrained in every aspect that we do, from the marketing and the targeting to the operations to the commercial and the funding part, right? And we are working a lot to like ingrain also like our work more into the teams across Grover, and like to really make sustainability part of the everyday job and of everybody at the company, like as it should be in any organization. And that's also like the things that will be very important for the future to actually be able to deliver on our promise. And that goes hand in hand with also the external environment changing, like what we seek also to contribute is like to have more transparency on like what is like and more knowledge and awareness about how these things are delivered like well, right? So to develop standards, common agreements, alignments, transparency, etc. On the whole market, on the circular consumer electronics chain. I mean, the EU taxonomy is helping, and the new disclosure regulations. But this is also by putting this the impact question like up for discussion, like to say like let's share and learn and collaborate to advance the sector.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I would also say two sides. One is of course building a successful, profitable company, but the external factor is if we can help make the industry more sustainable, basically by driving demand for more durable, more sustainable devices, right? By if we shift demand because we will pick devices that last longer, maybe we can influence. Of course, it's far out, but maybe we can influence the industry to make more sustainable devices as well.
Wenn die Katze nicht da ist irgendwie, oder?
Not a bad comment.
Was that in my direction or was it?
I don't think so, but maybe it's a good. It's
okay.
A good way.
Anyways, that was a good way.
I see Jan has a question. Jan, do you want to ask this question? A very, very, very quick question now to all of the three of our speakers, or do you want to save it for?
Yeah, I would like to. I mean, I like the idea of having more sustainable products in the long term, and I think in order to do that, you'd have to incentivize the manufacturers somehow. So they need to create products that last longer, and you know, because they ultimately make the revenue by selling them right now. Do you have any models or any plans to let them participate in the rental revenue business itself? So that's maybe the first part of the question. And the second one, did you ever think about consumers lending to each other? So you could actually accumulate or, you know, increase the revenues that you're making from every rental, because you can rent it out to one consumer and the consumer can rent it out to a peer network, and then everyone of that network could actually pay for the usage rather than just for the ownership for a particular, you know, time. Does it make sense? Do the two questions make sense? I hope they do.
Maybe let me pick the second question. So it already turns in my head around this thing. It's a great idea to share assets peer to peer, but this will be conflicting with the law, I would say, when it comes to GDPR, also with the assuring of the quality of the asset and so on. But this is something we should think of. We haven't. Myself, I haven't thought of, but this might be something where we can even expand the business. But there are already some challenges which I just see with thinking 1 minute about it.
Well, check out one site. It's called sharely.ch. it's like Sharely.ch. It's a platform in Switzerland that does peer-to-peer rental. So, I mean, it's from end consumers. They own the products and they rent them out to others. But I mean, I'm just thinking out loud now, but if you rented it out to a person and that person could rent it out to other people and you can just make, revenue from every person that rents it, that would effectively, multiply your revenues plus, actually increase the usage of the goods. Because I think that's the biggest problem that we're having in circularity, not in circularity, in sustainability today. That products are not just simply used more. And even through a rental model like yours, the products are not being used more. They're just owned for a time, by a person who uses them in the same way that any one other person would. And if you make the products being used by multiple people at the same time, then you have real sustainability, So, but in any case, I mean, I'm on these type of models. I'm very interested in these type of models. So let me know, and I'd be keen to continue that discussion separately as well.
You can dive deeper into this question and your interest in one of the breakout rooms, which I'm going to start now.
Sure.
Yeah, a little bit running short on time, so this is why
no
I interrupt. But this is the space where you can do exactly that, where you can bring up your questions and the things that you want to dive a little bit deeper into with one of our three speakers. So my colleague Sebastian is going to open up 3 breakout rooms, and everyone can choose individually which one you want to join. So there's one with Thomas, and you will be able to discuss any further questions around Grover's finances and the business model with him. One for Marianne on sustainability topics, and the third one on operations with myself. And the 3 of them have prepared some questions, and also everybody will be able to bring up all of their questions. So in order to access these breakout rooms, perfect, Sebastian just open them, please. So usually there should be the opportunity at the bottom of your Zoom menu where it says breakout sessions. Please click on there and choose one of your choose the breakout room that you want to go to. If you've got any questions, Sebastian is in the plenary room and will be able to help you.
Yeah, let me know if it doesn't work for you. You can also post in the chat if you want to go to a certain room, or just unmute yourself and let me know. Then I will move you. So is there anyone left who would like to join one of the breakout rooms? And if you don't want to join, we will have a short wrap up at 5 minutes before 6. So you can also just stay in the main room.
when orders from manufacturers for not renting their products. So especially the Japanese ones were quite strict with that. But over time, I think the more, I mean, most of the brands now, we work with all the major brands like Apple, Sony, Samsung, also in the audio space, Bose, I think Bang & Olufsen, a lot of them are there. And I think in the end, everybody has concluded that the opening an additional market segment is more promising than a potential cannibalization, right? So even, I mean, even the biggest manufacturers talk to us about doing a special subscription plan just for their products on their own shop and things like that. So there is a change in perception that has taken some time, and you can, if you will, you can somehow also then maybe price discriminate. So some people want to have the latest model, and they are willing to pay more for the latest model, and they keep it maybe for a year or two, and then afterwards, once the older generations are typically of the devices are usually a bit cheaper, so then you open up a new buyer group, which otherwise maybe wouldn't have afforded your devices, and you keep the things in circulation for longer, which I think with products like yours that are very long lasting, it's kind of ideal for such a model.
Yeah, that's a good idea to maybe also set up something exclusive with an exclusive product, maybe for a higher price, to see what that triggers in this new community. What also wondered me is how you, let's say, pay in advance, the brands get their money, and then you take care of everything else. That's of course very attractive for brands. To which extent can the products be used properly after 2 times? I mean, people can let's say damage the product. How would you say this works?
It varies. We have this famous GoPro, which has been rented out 37 times. It even has a name because it has been around for a while, and it's always good. Some things break, but typically people treat things better than one would expect.
Okay.
Right? If you have something big like a TV, you have a risk that something gets damaged and like during the shipping, especially people don't keep the big boxes. If you have a 60-inch TV, then people don't keep the bulky box until they send it back. And then this is kind of the shipping adds something to damages. But in the home, especially things that are in the home, like a smartphone, okay, you take it wherever you go and maybe it drops and you break it. But things that are within the home typically don't break. Okay. So you can keep them. I mean, we keep things on rent for 4 or 5 years. We started to think that we can only rent things out for 1.5 years, and that afterwards they would be kind of worn down. But we've been continuously surprised by how good the conditions remain.
Okay. Well, short last questions. Excuse me to the others. I hope that's fine. With regard to the let's say the expectation of the person who rents. After this person gets a product that has been sold 3 times before or rented out 3 times before, how does it affect the brand if the product is not brand new anymore?
So our brand promise is the products you get from Grover are as good as new, so that as a non-expert you should not be able to figure out whether to see whether a product has been rented before. Of course, it's not always possible, especially for those things that are short-term rental, like cameras that really go out, that get rented out 10-20 times, and then at least the boxes get a bit dirty and things like that, which we, for sustainability reason and also cost reason, we don't replace the boxes all the time unless it's really needed. But apart from that, especially like on 1 or like on 2, 3, 4 cycles, things look really nice.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And happy to take this, happy to talk about this separately as well.
Thank you.
We have another 5 minutes to raise questions. So So are there any questions from your side?
I'm actually happy to raise a question, if that's okay.
Of course.
Sure.
Hi, Thomas. I'm Max. I work for, besides supporting Circularity, I work for a furniture startup / company at this point. And when you just mentioned reverse logistics, that's a topic that we certainly have as well. Also towards like these larger appliances. I think with smaller ones, it's easier because you probably rather have a box that fits a camera at home than a box that fits a 60-inch TV. How do you deal with these? Because we have the same thing, right? If somebody wants to send back a sofa, it's a very similar challenge that we have. How do you solve those?
So for big bulkier things, we use two-man handling, which of course is a bit more expensive. And we now have a service with one of our logistics partners that actually bring the box. So if you have a TV pickup, they bring the box and make sure things get properly packed up, because that's just costly and unnecessary if things break in the shipping.
Yeah, and I assume that reduces your damage rate significantly, right?
That reduces the damage rate significantly. I don't know if you've seen that thing from Cowboy or the other, or Fun Move, where they had the e-bike manufacturer, where they have these big boxes and they had so much damage. So they painted, like they made an image of a TV on the box. So people treated it, the couriers treated it more careful. I mean, there can be small tricks like that lead to, I mean, the UPS drivers are under a lot of time pressure, so they throw around the boxes if they don't have a clear warning that things may break, for example.
Yeah, we did a similar thing. We put these like glass stickers on all of our boxes, even though it's wood, but with a very, very similar effect. The cheapest way to reduce damages was very effective. Thanks.
Okay, and Rachel.
Hi, I was just wondering, have you been able to compare the longevity of products at Grover compared to the general longevity of those products?
It's hard to get robust data on the market, and so it's hard, but I mean, by comparison, we believe that we have longer useful life because we refurbish and repair devices in between. So maybe if you're as a private individual, if your phone screen is cracked, then maybe you don't go through the hassle of replacing the screen, but you just put it in a drawer or eventually throw it away in a collection box or something. Whereas for us, of course, we well, for us, it's profit maximizing to keep things in circulation and repair them. So we would expect things last longer, or at least have more usage. If you have a GoPro, again, to that example, if you have a GoPro yourself and you only use it once per year for 2 weeks, then it probably lasts longer than if it's
Hi everyone, welcome back to our main sessions. So we have been interrupted right in our discussion, so there have been a couple of questions left, but we still need to close with that. Thank you very much for your active participation in this event, and thank you to all our guests for giving insights into also some very sensitive data and details about Grover's business. We are really looking forward to our next event, which will take place also in December, as we announced in the beginning. So please check our LinkedIn and Eventbrite and reserve some of the last spots. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Anything that comes into your mind, please let us know via email. Think about whether you want to participate in the action track. And if there's nothing left here, Then I wish everyone a very good evening and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tja, jetzt haben wir nur noch 3 Minuten.
Hang on. Oh, yeah.
Ich glaube, jetzt sind wir auch nur noch unter uns, nicht ganz.
Ha. So on time waren wir, glaube ich, noch nie.
Können wir den Warteraum nochmal einschalten?
Ja, mache ich gerade, genau. Nachdem sich jetzt noch Leute einwählen.